Thumbs up, Scott. Doc Councilman, George Haynes, Eddie Reese, Richard Quick. The list goes on of incredible head coaches of the U.S. Olympic team. Just recently in 2012, we had Greg Troy, and for the first time in the history of our sport, we had the first female head coach of an Olympic team. The U.S. has been number one in the world of swimming since 1956. No other sport, no other team can come close to the dominance that the United States has had over almost 60 years. In the last 4 games alone, we have averaged 31 medals at each one of those Olympic Games. As a country, the USA swimming team would have been 9th in total medals won at those 2012 Olympic Games, and we won almost a third of the total Olympic medals won by the United States at those Olympic Games. There is a lot of pressure put on an Olympic head coach for USA swimming. There is a lot of tradition of excellence. And when you look at a head coach, you look for that sacrifice, you look for that responsibility, and you look for that integrity. In 1984, my head Olympic coach was Don Gambrell. And I went to school at Auburn. Coach Gambrell was the head coach of Alabama. But when we got to Los Angeles, there were no Roll Tides. There were no War Eagles. There was only Go USA. And I am so proud of the 2 men that have been selected as the head coaches of the 2016 Olympic team. They are 2 of the greatest coaches on the planet, but they represent everything you want to look for in an Olympic head coach. And to make that announcement of the 2 head coaches of the U.S. Olympic team for the Rio Games, I will turn it now to Frank Busch, the head national team director for USA Swimming.
Thanks, Rowdy. What an exciting time. On behalf of United States Swimming and its nearly 500,000 members, it's my pleasure to announce the head coaches for the 2016 Olympic United States team. For these 2 men, it is a tremendous honor, I know. It is something that they both have aspired to be, and I happen to be the lucky one that was able to give them the great news. I'd like to introduce our head women's coach, Coach David Marsh. I've known both of these coaches for over 25 years, so I know them very well. I know their leadership abilities. I know their character. I know a lot about them. David has won more NCAA Division I titles than any coach in the history of Division I swimming. He is the head coach for Swim Mac, Carolina. He has been head coach for numerous national teams for the United States, and it is an honor and a privilege for me to introduce David Marsh, head women's coach, United States Swimming, 2016 Olympics.
Thank you, Frank. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, guys. Hey, gosh, when I'm trying to absorb this and put this into emotions, all I can really do, honestly, is do the gratitude thing, because I really feel incredibly grateful to so many people. I've stood shoulder to shoulder with so many people. I've stood on the shoulders of some great men and women, and I've used men and women's shoulders to get to this point. So one is, it's so many people. This is just a collection of a lot of people that not only from which I've gained knowledge, but also from which I'm able to do some good coaching. I'd like to thank the swimmers that I've coached over the last 34 years. Each and every one of them has made an impact and made a difference. I'd like to thank the current swimmers that I'm coaching with the Team Elite group. They're rascals at times, but mostly they kick butt in practice, and they're a lot of fun to coach and an honor to coach in almost all cases. I would like to think through the coaches. You know, when I think of my coaches, I go right to Richard Quick. I mean, Richard was, at least for Rowdy and I, and so many people that he touched at Auburn and Stanford and Texas, an impact person as a person first, and then as a coach. And to think that I'm stepping into the role he once did so well and set the standard for is an incredible honor. And I just can't get over that. And also I'd like to do a quick shout out to my staff, who's down in Charleston at a team retreat right now, and hope you guys are having a good time. You may start having adult beverage now. But I think in terms of the program and what we've been able to do at SwimMac, to think that 8 years ago came there from my beloved Auburn to SwimMac, we've been able to build I think a very good, strong team that's going to feed the Olympic team from the young ages and offer kind of a place for pros to go to feel like they're professional. I'm so proud of that, and I look forward to any way I can help any of the swimmers through that kind of system. Kristen, my wife, and my kids, I wouldn't, of course, be here without them. Kristen met her on the pool deck as a coach, and we have 3 kids. One of them is running around being recruited right now. The other one just joined swimming at 15 years old. I love swimming, so this is an honor for in this kind of instance with how that goes. The Olympic Games is the greatest event I've ever been a part of, and I've been a part of a few of them right now. It brings the whole world together in a peaceful time that you just, it's hard to grasp what that means. At the same time, it brings the best of the best. 4 years of preparation goes into getting ready for the Olympic Games for almost all the athletes there, and it brings out some incredible stories, some incredible performances, and some incredible pressure. So a lot to be ready for that. Team USA, our Olympic team, we are used to bringing home most of the medals from all the sports at the Olympics, and the Olympic team counts on swimming to come in and really show significant dominance. And I do think that with and specifically the women's side right now, I do think with the makeup and potential of the team, it's phenomenal. We have some incredible veterans. We have a lot of new faces popping into the scene, and I think that's going to make for a very exciting Omaha, and I'm very, very excited about that as well. I think one of the things that's going to be really critical, though, and this is to any swimmers that happen to be watching right now, is the fall matters. Like right now matters, and it matters the most, and it matters especially to the bridge between making the team in Omaha and being ready for Rio. We've got to get the training in right now, so get off the couch if you're on the couch and get to the pool. And then I'd really like to dedicate this and give this to honor this with my mom. She doesn't remember things as well as she used to, but she always believed in me. When I was a swimmer and I wasn't any good, she thought I was a great swimmer. When I just started coaching, she thought I was the greatest coach. And I would like to honor her with this, and hope I continue to make her proud. And Bob, Frank, Team USA staff, I'm looking forward to this challenge. We've got an awesome group assembled, and I just told Rowdy and the media folks that when you see the Team USA having fun, we're going to swim fast. So let's have fun.
Now I'd like to introduce our head coach on the men's side. Coach Bob Bowman has been USA Swimming's Coach of the Year 6 times. He's been head coach for several USA teams and is currently the head coach at Arizona State University. And Bob and I go back a long way with sharing great moments at a lot of great meets. And I know how excited he is for this opportunity. So I'd like to introduce Bob Bowman.
You know, if you hear David's excitement when he talks about what this opportunity means, I have to echo the same sentiments. I'm so grateful to so many people who've allowed me to be standing here today. A tremendous group of athletes, parents the coaches that I've had the privilege to learn with. I'd like to mention the head Olympic coaches that I have worked under on the men's staff, because they were such great role models. Eddie Reese, Mark Schubert, Greg Troy. Those are just icons of this sport, and to even be considered in their company is a true honor. And I'm extremely humbled and very grateful for this chance. You know, I think that when we look at this Rio Olympic Games, it will come with its own unique brand of challenges, like every Olympics comes with. And that's part of the fun, a lot of the fun. We know that in Brazil is going to be a very festive environment. We know that we're going to be able to enjoy ourselves, but we also know that there's some unique things that we're going to be working on, and that's kind of where I come in. David will give you a lot of great feel good like he just did, and I'm pretty good on planning and making the nuts and bolts work. So I think we're a great team. I think we're a perfect team as far as that goes. And there's a lot to look at, and I'm excited to get to work on it. I've already been thinking about some things that we can do as a team. You know, on the men's side and really on both sides, the strength of a swimming nation is its relays. That's how you judge how strong a swimming nation is. And right now we can be better. We can be a lot better. And, you know, as well as having our primetime players ready to go when the moment happens, we need to develop some people who are going to step up on those relays, and we need to think about the strategy we're going to use. And I look very much forward to working with our athletes as we go through the next year to be ready when that time comes. I think that as a coach, you know, David said it right. Now's the time. Now's the time to train for what you want to do next summer. The time you put in today is going to make the difference in between winning a medal and not, between going to Rio and not, between breaking a record and not. So the time for waiting is over. The time for action is now for all the athletes out there. And I know there are a lot of hardworking people out there with big dreams, and I look forward to working with you as we go forward. A little bit more from the relays. You know, the strength of USA Swimming, which is the most successful team in any sport in history, is the team environment. That everyone there is swimming for something bigger than themselves. And that's something that I want to remind everybody about. I want everybody to know that as a staff, we are committed to making the USA the #1 team at that Olympic Games, and we will do it in a way where everybody enjoys it and where everybody can feel like they're part of what is happening. Whether there's someone who swims a relay in the morning or whether there's someone who's, you know, going to win multiple gold medals. Every person on that team will contribute, and everyone has to contribute if we're going to be successful. You know, in closing, I'd like to thank everyone at Arizona State University, my new home, for being so welcoming. Everyone at North Baltimore Aquatic Club, where I've spent a majority of my career. And all the other places where I've been along the way. Little known fact for today is we have a Las Vegas Gold Swim Team reunion here with Rowdy, David, and I, because that's where I got my start, and both of those guys made a stop there as well. So we have a long history, and I'm very much looking forward to what we're going to do in the future together. Thank you.
With that, I'm going to turn this over to Rowdy for some questions and answers with our new coaches.
Thank you, Frank. Wow. Has it sunk in yet? I mean, have you been able to even think? Because Frank just called you guys a couple days ago,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. He kept it hidden there for a little while, didn't he?
What was your initial reaction, both of you? I mean, where were you, and what was your first thought that went through your mind?
Well, I started thinking of well, first of all, obviously, honored incredibly, but at the same time, immediately like, okay, what do we need to do?
Yeah.
I mean,
exactly right.
Because there's a lot to do.
There is a lot to do.
You know, being on the World Championship team, the Pan Pac staff before that, there's a lot of things that can happen, and the great thing is the potential is just incredible. I mean, and I think and I know the USA athletes, for sure the coaches, we know how to do Olympic year. I mean, I don't know that we always know how to do every year, but we know how to do Olympic year. And I'm just so excited about the atmosphere that's already out there, irrespective of who the head coaches are. And then now I hope we can, Bob and I can provide some level of maybe vision or direction that might bring a little bit more clarity to things. But I think it's really going to be ultimately the kids going up down the pool. But biggest thing is just hugging Kristen and sharing it with Kristen, because she's, we met on a pool deck and we've done life together through swimming, and that was probably the most special
So you
kind of
were
moment.
home.
I was home. Yeah, I was
Where
home.
were you?
I had just gotten home from practice. It was about 5 and had a text from Frank, please call me. And I was like, oh man, what's this about?
What did I do now?
And then, yeah, my first thought was, are you kidding me? Because, it was a little bit of a surprise. And I think the hardest part was he said, don't tell anybody till noon on Wednesday.
Exactly.
So I couldn't tell anybody. There was nobody home, so it was like, that's probably been the hardest part.
When you think about I talked a little bit about the tradition of excellence and the fact that the U.S. has been number one for so many years. It comes with a lot of pressure here the next year, and a lot of balance, because you both have regular 9-to-5 jobs, so to
Right.
speak.
Yeah.
How are you going to both balance that club position job and now the Arizona State job? How do you find that balance between the two?
Well, for my situation, we're really, like at North Baltimore, you really, and I think what
Yeah.
you're doing at Arizona State,
Yeah.
I think the end of the rainbow is the Olympic Games,
Right.
Rowdy. And so no matter what the situation is, how we're developing structures in Charlotte, the coaches right now are in Charleston, kind of assembling a plan for the vision of Swim at Carolina. And that vision ends and is also pointed toward
Omaha,
an Olympic Rio, and really
Yeah,
not Omaha.
right.
Omaha's great, and I'm excited about Omaha, but it ends up at the Olympic Games, and things we can do to support that, things we can do to use that this year. And I know club coaches all around the country will use this year to inspire their kids to think of that next level and dream of Japan, not dream of Japan, start working toward Japan. So I think in terms of me balancing time, it has to do with I've got an excellent board of directors that will absolutely embrace this. The membership of Swim at Carolina is a group that is always been supportive of the Team Elite concept, and I think they know that we have a fantastic coaching staff that will deliver fantastic swimming to them. And then with the Team Elite guys, I think it's just a matter of getting them taking that next big step, and most of them have already in many ways done that, but there's always some adjustments to be made, in a seasonal plan, especially tomorrow.
Yeah.
You've talked so much about Arizona State.
Yeah.
That's a support. We were just talking a little while ago about that support.
Yeah.
And it's got to mean a lot to you as we head into this year, not only from the collegiate standpoint, but also from the international standpoint.
Absolutely. The opportunity that I've been given at Arizona State is the same thing David's just talking about. Our program is guided towards performance at the very highest level, and that's the Olympic Games. So whether or not, we immediately have a group on our college team, we have some, but, who are going to maybe do that this time, they're absolutely thinking that way, and they're moving in that direction. So they're a big part of what's going on. We also have the pro group, who's been there now 3 weeks, training really hard, doing a nice job. And, so that focus is obvious and ongoing, because we've been doing it with most of these people for many, many years. I think the thing that strikes me most when we kind of go into this Olympic year is how many people are touched by it, not just the kids who are going to try out to make the team. It's their parents, it's the little kids. And I'm starting a club right now at ASU that's going to do just what David was talking about at Swim Bang. There's just an excitement in general with every person I know in the athletic department at ASU. They're very strong focus on Olympic sports, which is unique among, I think, a lot of NCAA schools. So I want to feed off of that and try to use that to help us grow the sport of swimming, not only in Arizona, but everywhere. I think it's a great opportunity.
How would you both assess where the team is today? I mean, 290 plus days out. I know it was sort of a wacky summer and
Yeah.
3 different teams, but on the men's side especially, you've got these great veterans, all coming back, by the
Right.
way,
Yeah.
from their individual titles
Sure.
3 years ago. And I'll talk about Michael specifically in just a few minutes, but you also have a really good mix of youngsters,
We do.
the Jack Congers and the Seliscars and these kids that the Caleb Dressels, most people have never heard of outside
Sure.
of the swimming world.
Oh, yeah.
How do you feel about this team as we head into next year?
Well, I feel very good about it if everybody gets their act together. If they do, we'll be great.
Right.
So, that kind of starts with the top. We got the big hammers, and they will be ready. I'm confident Michael and Ryan, those guys, they're going to be ready to go. The young guys have a great opportunity to step up, but they're going to have to be really ready to do something because the competition's so tight.
Right.
And several events where some of these young kids are swimming, it's just very, very tight to get in there. But I do think if we kind of approach what they're doing today with the focus that they've used to get here, those young guys are going to make some noise, and I'm excited to bring them into it. And I think that the veterans will really give them some great role models to follow in terms of how to conduct business at that level, and it might be the last chance we have with some of these older guys. So I think it's a really special opportunity for the young ones.
It's almost a mirror image for the women, David, because you've got Katie, and I'll get to Katie in a minute as well, but Missy and Natalie and Allison Schmidt, all of those great veterans that look very promising next summer. But then you've got those young mix of the Kathleen Bakers and the Katie Mileys and the young up-and-comers, Kelsey Worrells. How do you see this team?
I think it's a really interesting women's team. I think the potential is fabulous. I think because there's strong leadership. There's a veterans that know how to do this routine. So I think even the young people that come aboard, they'll have those models to follow. And I think a little bit like what Bob just said, which is getting the veterans to those that are a tick off right now to jump back in and get back to their best version of themselves soon, and then work to be a little bit better than they've ever been. I think that can make all the difference in the world, and not only to the medal count, but also to the team chemistry, which will cause the medal count.
Right.
And I think when we've had the Great Olympics, it's been because the group has great harmony, their synergy, where they're feeding off each other, and I do think this group has it. Did you feel that in London?
Did you guys both feel that chemistry in London? Because it obviously had tremendous success there.
No,
both
I
on the
did,
staff.
and I think it started I know for the men, I think our first event was 400 free, and we had those two guys really step up and swim well, and that really got things going.
Yep.
And that's what you need.
And we're kind of known for being slow starters a little bit, and we don't want to do that.
Right.
If we can get off to a good start. Now, the challenge is the 400 free relay comes right away.
Right.
And for both men and women, that's probably the most challenging relay
Exactly.
No doubt.
for both of us.
I was going to ask you about that
there
specific relay.
Well, there are other countries doing camps all around just that relay, and they're traveling around to make sure they get all the right things. So there's people specializing now, not just in their individual events, but in relay atmospheres like that. So I believe that the potential is there, and specific to the women, there needs to be significant movement forward. There's some strength to be gained this year. There's some quality training to be put in. But reality is we need some 52s. We need some 52 splits, and men need 47s.
That's
yeah,
right.
that's and where that comes from, young, old, new person you've never heard of, bring it on.
Exactly.
Let's talk a little bit about the monstrosity on each one of your respective teams. First of all, Michael, and I talked to you earlier about this, Bob, but how have you seen that transition in Michael over the last 15 years, and where you see his role? And we know where your role is going to be now, but where do you see his role as we head into this next year?
I think Michael's in such a great place where he can be, and it's kind of hard to even say this, but he's the elder statesman of our sport for everybody, not just for men, but for the women too. Yeah. He's been doing this a very long time at a very high level. And I think as he's moved through his career, he's been at different places. In Beijing, he was basically just a machine. And that's what he had to be to do that program.
Right.
He basically had to take care of his business 24/7 all the time. By the time we got to London, he had opened up more as a team leader, I felt like, and just had a real impact on the other people on the team besides just inspiring them with his performances. And that's just going to continue now. He's more vocal now about what he thinks is important about the team, what the team needs to do, and I think he'll take a real leadership role. So it'll be almost like another coach on the staff. I think that'll be great for him.
I know he was texting Jack Roach a lot.
He was
during the
he
World Championship.
Oh yeah,
so I know he was emotionally all.
He has some feedback. Yes.
And on the flip side of that, you have Katie Ledecky, who is coached by Bruce Gimmel, obviously, and done a wonderful job. But as a head coach of the women's team now, how do you manage her expectations, or help her manage her expectations and her time commitment, because she is going to be in a very similar situation maybe not quite the same, but very similar to what Michael had to go through in 2008.
Well, I think the thing with Katie is we just need to let Katie be Katie.
Exactly.
She is so good at just kind of doing her business, doing her training. She and Bruce, it's so fun watching them in the World Championship camp work together. It's not really that fun, actually. They kind of get their work done, and they have this this awesome relationship that you can see works so well. And I think that's the key. We just don't want her to get pulled off too far. She doesn't. She'll be on a lot of magazines and things like that. But ideally, she's not being pulled away to too many shoots and other things like that. She can stay on task. I think they still scramble for pool space up in the D.C. area for the club she swims for, even still to this day. So I think they're, to some degree, overcoming less than ideal situations has been a consistent challenge of hers. She trains with the boys. Even the guys at the training camps, they say, "Oh gosh, I got to get in Katie's lane today." She gobbles up not just the races, Rowdy, but she just loves swimming and swimming fast and swimming hard. And in many ways, the more we can keep it simple like that for her and just get in the pool, get it done, it's pretty magical. Yeah.
How important is it for you guys to share that knowledge going forward to keep this team together? Because I, at least from my history of watching the U.S. teams, the ones that have been the most successful have come together as a team, both the men and women together. How important is that together to collaborate and to make sure going forward?
And I think one of the things that we've done in the last, really maybe 2 Olympics, but certainly in London more than before, was that the men and women's team basically acted like one unit. Like the coaching staffs were working with both. There wasn't a lot of separation. There were some different meetings and things, but in general, we kind of approach it where everyone's on the same team, and I think that's really important and beneficial. I think that made a huge impact.
Yeah, I think the athletes for the veterans we have here, I think
we'll insist on that.
Yeah, well, Bob and I can just help with what they're going to create.
Right.
Honestly, it's not. I don't believe we'll have to create anything. I think there's enough veterans, there's enough leadership for us to just help wherever we're needed and sort of stay out of their way a little bit.
Exactly.
I don't. And it's going to be interesting. I don't know what the team's how it's going to come together. There's some really important personalities that you would say, if I could select this person on the team right now because of the extra they bring, I'd do it right now. But that's not the way we work in the U.S.
Exactly.
Top 2, baby.
Yeah.
And you got to go earn it
on one
and
day.
get on that team. So that's that. I think in terms of putting this team together, I have no worries. I think the chemistry is going to be there, and the training camps will begin to get together. And when we get into Rio, we'll be there to do a job at a swim meet. We're not there to take in the pageantry. We're there for a swim meet.
That's right.
I'm going to take just a couple minutes and go back a little bit because, Bob, you bounced around quite a bit.
Yeah.
You started off in Columbia, South Carolina as a kid. You went to Florida State. You coached there. You coached in Cincinnati and Las Vegas, Birmingham, Napa Valley. You had your first Olympian, Eric Wunderlich, come out of that program in 1996. Did you ever imagine in your wildest dreams you'd be sitting here right now as the head Olympic coach for the 2016 Games?
Honestly, no. I went around because I had this idea in my head that I wanted to go learn from the best people. So I went to coach with David Marsh, and he taught me a lot of good lessons. And then I went on to Paul Bergen, and then I'm in Murray Stevens, some people who were already performing at the top level.
Right.
So through all of that, I felt confident that I could coach people to the top level, but I never really saw myself in this. You start talking about George Haynes and people like that.
Right.
You just don't really. It's hard to put yourself in their category.
And David, I know you were born in Miami, and you didn't start swimming until you were 15. Right. And then when I talked to you a little while ago, you said you kind of knew that moment when you really wanted to start to coach was right after you graduated from Auburn. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I enjoyed the swimming process, especially the team stuff, and especially competing in SECs and NCAAs, watching you kick butt. And although that one year I did,
careful,
I did
we
lead you in the medley relay. I left the relay first. By the end of the relay, it was 4th, and I wish you could have brought that home so I could have had a title. Anyway, but
I knew you'd bring that up.
There was a day when I started coaching. It was the very first day on the deck in the old pool at Auburn.
Yeah.
And I remember like it was yesterday, and I just immediately knew this is what I wanted to do, Rowdy. And And if you ask me if I thought I'd be an Olympic coach, well, I don't know, probably because I was Richard Quick's.
Yeah.
You know, Richard Quick was my guy. I wanted to do everything he did.
Right.
And so whatever he did is what I wanted to follow. And I just put my finger in his belt loop and walked around behind him for a long time. And then along the while have had a lot of lessons. In fact, Eric Wunderlich was one of those.
Yes.
At 14, imagine that.
Yeah.
Eric. But I think the thing you learn from the process of swimming is you just try to do the best thing for the people in the sport. The results happen because they see that you care. And sometimes caring means pushing when they don't want to be pushed. Sometimes caring means taking them aside and spending time with them irrespective of the sport of swimming. And I think that's a beauty in the United States of how the coaches, and here we are at ASCA right now, and I think that's what you're going to hear more about at the talks here, is about how to care for people, and then, oh, by the way, you might want to know some technical things too. And I do think that Bob, through his career, myself, and we've been to college, we've been to club, we've kind of been in the trenches of what swimming is in the United States, and this new professional piece is really, I think, still some ways new to us.
Exactly.
So we're trying to really get our hands on what this is. But it's an exciting time right now because there's so many things coming at us, and for me, I am incredibly honored to be in this position. Although I will say I never wrote down a goal of being an Olympic coach. Although when Ray Essick, I don't know if you know this, when Ray Essick did a time capsule when he was leaving the sport, he said, you do a time capsule for who will be the Olympic coach. And I forget what year. I'm not sure it was 2016, but Bob was on my staff back then and coaching the 11 and 12 years. Remember those guys, those little rugrats you were coaching?
I do.
And as a coach then, I put his name in that time capsule. Your name, Bob, is he will be an Olympic coach someday. And so to be sitting here, I just got chills. To be sitting here right now, to think that we can come in here together and have an opportunity to maybe enhance potentially the medal count or whatever we can do to help the chemistry of the group. We're very, very excited about doing that.
What's first? I mean, what do you? I know you're still trying to digest this because it just happened 48 hours ago. But maybe in the back of your mind over the last few months, you've probably had the idea that you were going to be there or be close. If not the head coach, try to be on the staff. But now you're the head honchos. And what's first on the list? What
I
do
think
you
you got to
about
reach
doing
out.
first?
I'd like to reach out to the people that are on the national team or the ones that we know are close, and just let them know we're here for them, number one. I mean, there are a lot of things that maybe they need help with individually that we could advise them on or work with them on. So I think that's really the number one thing for me. But the number two thing is, I've been thinking about this for 2 years now, is just getting my head around the logistics of this trip, because that's going to be our big challenge. And finding ways where we can kind of practice that environment or start thinking in that way. I gave you an example earlier. My group we're doing 9 o'clock
10 to midnight
and 5
finals,
o'clock.
yeah.
Yeah, we're pushing things later already. So we're going 9 o'clock our first practice, 5 o'clock our second practice, and then as we go, we'll be pushing it later and later to try to get into that night time frame, just so they start thinking that way. Because I don't think it's going to be a big deal. Just have to be ready for it. And if we're ready for it, we'll be just like the finals in Beijing in the morning. No problem. We'll be able to handle it.
You both have several national team members on your team already, so you've got a head start already with that as far as preparation goes. But what do you think about trying to do first?
Well, I think the first thing they said, which I wasn't allowed to tell any of my own guys that I was on the staff already, but I think they felt the thunder Tuesday when I came to practice, and a lot of them had thought they could take Labor Day off, and so we made clarity that they weren't supposed to take Labor Day off, and we'd be making up that practice that they maybe didn't do. But I would say that's what it is, really, Rowdy. I think to some ways it's liberating to get kind of selected, even as a head or an assistant right now. So we that can be now how can we help Team USA be better?
Right.
And so it moves outside the boundaries of being just what can I do for Team Elite, although that will be my focus and my daily job.
Of course.
But I think, can we bring somebody in? I mean, Leah Neal was in a couple of weeks ago for a week, and we had a great conversation. And this before I knew anything as well, and I just kind of challenged her to ramp up herself, because she's right on the edge of being one of those 52s. And I'm sure Greg out at Stanford, she's gonna kind of take off.
That next step.
And but I think that's one of the things that what I'm looking forward to is how can I help? How can I help any of the swimmers out there,
Sure.
Male, female, and in particular the ones that are kind of dialed into being medalists. And,
Right.
And I think there's in some ways, I'd love to have the best possible Olympic team assemble in Omaha. Fortunately, it's determined by itself, so there's no politics involved. And when we do that, we'll carry on with the logistics of heading to San Antonio.
Last question. I know this is important for both of you because I talked to you about it a little while ago. You talked about mentors in your life and about how you have given back, both of you, to so much to the sport and to the coaches that have worked under you. How important was family to you, Bob? I know I've read articles about your mom and your parents, but specifically your mom talking about how, they asked a question about if she motivated and she said, no, he motivates me every day. And I know that mentorship that you receive not only from the coaches that you talked about, but your family means a lot.
My family means so much to me, and when I read about so many of these kids have such a tough upbringing or a broken home, or I don't relate to that because I felt like I had an ideal childhood. I had parents who had good moral values and wanted us to work hard and provided for us, and never felt like we never had anything that if we needed something, we had it. So to grow up in a secure environment like that with people who expected me to do things. If I came home and I got 95 on the test, I said, well, what would it take to get 100? That was the level. And, they never gave me $1 for an A or anything because that's what you're supposed to do. So I think that was a huge part of my upbringing, still is. I talk to my mom every other day,
Same thing with you. You talked to you were very emotional when you were talking about your mom, and you worked in the drapery factory that your family owned. And I remember reading a quote that you had talking about your family, that you grew up from very humble beginnings. You were a very humble family, but you were a very proud family. And I know that family aspect means a lot to you, not only from your immediate family, but your swimming family as well.
Well, I never knew a day where my dad didn't work hard, and he just worked hard all the time. Still works hard up in Blue Ridge. He's probably mowing somebody's yard today, and I'm watching the webcast. And my mom, of course, was that, like I said earlier, she was been my unflappable fan forever, and almost it probably is obnoxious, but
moms are like that.
Yeah,
we can excuse moms.
Well, and I think they're correct.
Yeah, that's right. That's their job. Part of their
anyway,
job.
so I think in terms of my background, I think there was some great models, and then I kind of came to swimming real late, like you did, Rowdy, and everything I got to experience in swimming was like something new and exciting was happening. You mean you can do 2 practices in a day? You're allowed to do that? So me and a friend of mine and I, we would go jump over the fence at the YWCA to get in and swim in the morning before practice, because that's what the fast people did. And then when I got to Auburn and you were there, and McCagg was there and Forrester was there, it's like, these guys are the best in the world, and I'm like the schlep 5th backstroker. And but I got to fight up the food chain and be included immediately in by guys like you. So I think most people out there experience swimming in that relational way, and that's certainly what I've done. And the fact that my own family, Kristen, Alyssa, Maddie, and Aaron, all have come through some version of swimming, whether but they haven't just tolerated the sport with Dad going off to practice. I mean, there are a lot of days when Alyssa or Maddie were on the pool deck at Auburn, or yesterday Alyssa was at morning practice with me. And that's kind of how we've done the sport. We've just done it together as a family, and we really wouldn't know probably what to do if there wasn't swimming as really kind of a centerpiece in holding us together.
I know this next year for both of you is going to be kind of hectic, to say the least. And on behalf of USA Swimming and all of America, we wish you all the best. Good luck this next year, and let's have a great Olympic Games and have fun along the way as well. Congratulations to both of you.
Thanks, Rowdy.
Thanks, Rowdy.